What's up, guys? Mitch from RespectMyRegion.com here with some cannabis industry news. So last week we saw both Weeedmaps and Berner post on Instagram ominously about a social media app that the two were working on designed for the cannabis community. If you're in the industry or even in the community, you are no stranger to how difficult it is to navigate Instagram and or Facebook posting cannabis content. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very inconsistent. Your page or your post could be axed and deleted at any given moment. It is very, very frustrating. We recently saw Steezy lose their account, which was, I believe, was private and had over 500,000 followers. And they really knew how to do Instagram. I believe they've committed about $1 million plus in salary a year just for employees to handle Instagram for a cannabis community. So someone with that kind of budget savviness and technical know-how losing their account after building such a massive asset to 500,000 followers, that sends a signal that there is definitely something wrong. That same week, Cookies lost their main Instagram. And we've seen countless others. I've lost accounts, and I'm sure if you're watching this and you're in the industry, you've lost accounts and you know people that lost accounts. You probably even lost multiple accounts. It's a very common thing at this point. We've seen people come and go with talks of, well, we've seen a lot of people talk about potential apps for the cannabis space. A lot of talk. We've seen a few people make strides. Most notably, in recent years, Berner set out to promote the Social Club app, which quickly kind of fumbled, but then that company and idea was rebranded into a platform that's like the Netflix of weed, which is actually thriving now. So big shout out to them for that. But their initial idea, they had some trouble having content that let users post what they want while trying to moderate it. It's a very tricky world. We as consumers or people of opinion on the internet have very strong opinions on how these platforms police and regulate their platforms. But when you're sitting in that seat of allowing free speech, but also not allowing hate and threats, it gets real confusing on what's actually free speech, what crosses the line, where's the line drawn, is that line easily definable in every area? It's a very difficult thing to do. Just get that out there. I know we're all critics of it, but it's a very difficult thing to do. Anyways, back to Weeedmaps and Berner. They're coming together to announce, or they came together to announce, just on Instagram, ironically, that they're going to create essentially an anti-Instagram app that is for the cannabis community and industry, but where they promise pages won't get deleted, things won't get taken down. But again, it goes back to how are they going to police that? What will be allowed? What won't be allowed? That's a tricky thing. I think that, among other things, is a reason why if this app were to ever come to fruition, it would most likely not succeed. Again, point number one being, how do you police something? Where do you draw the lines in the sand? And how do you consistently stay in those lines? It's very difficult for reasons I just ranted about. Second, we've already seen this failure in the past. I mentioned Social Club, but even before that, Mass Roots was a massive failure. They had $4 to $5 million in funding, a pretty active user base, were early adopter, I believe out of Colorado, as Colorado was the first state with legal adult use cannabis for sale. They looked positioned to take a big slice of the cannabis community's airtime on their devices. They were unsuccessful in doing that. I remember an app launched at CannaCon called Sesh or something many years ago about finding people and communities to sesh. That app did not last very long. At Respect My Region, we've been a part of numerous apps to see how we can, to learn about it first of all, and leverage how we can use that for our business, especially pertaining to cannabis. When TikTok came out, we learned in a group chat, hey, let's try this for cannabis. Within about 2 minutes, someone reported back, this is not the app for that. But we've actually given speeches and written some documents on how to use TikTok for cannabis. Ask us if you want that information. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. Reasons why I don't see this being successful. Another reason I don't see that this Weeedmaps Berner social media app being successful is Berner and Weeedmaps do not have the size of platform able to successfully launch an app like this. Berner in the cannabis industry is definitely one of the GOATs. I've respected him in the music industry long before he was in the cannabis industry. He has a killer platform. I'm a big fan of his business, so in no way am I hating the dude, but he is not the biggest rapper in the world by a long shot. He is connected to a lot of the biggest rappers, so maybe if his network gets together and puts the right thing, they might be able to reach the general public, but the general public is not as hip to Berner as, say, a Snoop Dogg, or even, Berner was associated with Taylor Gang, a Wiz Khalifa, a Drake. You're not at that mega celebrity status where you could launch an app. And I even question if celebs on that level or even Jay-Z could successfully launch an app. Jay-Z probably could do it. He does a lot. But anyways, he doesn't have the biggest platform. And then if we look back at Weeedmaps, Weeedmaps has not even successfully scaled out their brand awareness in every market yet. They are major players in California. I live in Washington. Weeedmaps is not a big player up here. Not in the sense of like Leafly's big in Washington and Weeedmaps isn't, where it's vice versa in California. In other states, Reddit is a bigger resource for cannabis information than Leafly or Weeedmaps together. Weeedmaps has not even scaled out their core business successfully to all the different markets. Again, I'm not knocking Weeedmaps. I love the system. I've worked with them on a multitude of things. Big fan. I just do not see them having the platform to launch an app, let alone have the track record of successfully scaling out an existing app around their core business model. Hasn't even happened yet. So how do you launch another business on top of that? Thirdly, a social media app is major. And the reason why I doubt the level of these brands, the size and scale of these existing brands and the ability to scale out an app, a social media app is only successful at scale. There is no reason to have an Instagram, a Facebook, and then the cannabis Instagram or the basketball Instagram or any sort of niche or interest. You can consume all of that content on your phone. All of my interest, all of my friends, all of my family, all of my colleagues are within these existing apps. And when something goes viral, like a TikTok or before that a Snapchat that breaks the mold, you have Facebook, it's the biggest thing in the world. And then you have Instagram comes out, it's the biggest thing in the world. Facebook acquires that. Snapchat came out, had its moment. Clubhouse came out, had its moment. TikTok came out and is still having its moment. But in order for those things to do that, you have to reach such a massive scale of virality. Is that how you say it? You have to be a massive scale of going viral and just reaching people, and then adoption to use the app, daily users, not infrequent users, weekly users. They measure these apps on daily users. If you do not have hundreds of thousands, millions of daily users in hopes of getting towards a billion active users, it is very difficult to scale a social media app out. Why is that important? Because the cannabis community, while it is a very specific targeted interest and niche, if they are talking about something, and if I'm a cannabis consumer, in my daily life, I interact with, let's just say 20 people. Of those 20 people, maybe 4 or 5 within the cannabis community. If I'm dealing with just a general app where we can all share thoughts and opinions and all interest in things, all 20 people I interact with in a day, I can tell them about this app and they all might be potential users, as opposed to if it's just for the cannabis community, only a quarter of the people that I interact with do that. I can talk about it. And then if you know a numbers game of those quarter of the people I interact with, only a certain percentage of them will check it out and only a certain percentage of them will download the app and only a certain percentage of them will use it on a daily basis. We lose people down that funnel. So when you start with a small slice of the pie and you start cutting it smaller, there is not much there. And again, I'm already logging into all these apps where I can share all of my interests, thoughts, and opinions. Why would I have a separate app just for one interest or niche of my thoughts and opinions? That doesn't really make sense. It's kind of counterproductive and it's a waste of time. And I'm not only someone that is very passionate and a member of the cannabis community, I'm also in the cannabis industry. I don't see myself personally using an app except for business purposes. And if I'm only using it for business purposes, I'm not a daily user. I'm not actively engaging in anything. And that's a reason why these social media platforms are. I check Instagram every day and I get served a little bit of basketball highlights. I get served skateboarding. I haven't skateboarded in 10 years, but I'm still amazed at the content. I get served music content and I get served my friends' family. I go there for all of my interests. Who I am as a person is not a single particular interest. It is a wide variety of interests. I can consume content, share opinions, and be entertained in so many facets of the interests that make me me on one single app. That is the singular most power of these social media platforms, not to mention you add in engaging and staying in touch with friends and family. When we silo it out to a single interest, we lose so much of the reason why we use that social media. And then another thing, for these social media apps, varying of opinions and disagreements are what fuel engagement. And it's not always just negativity, and there can be negativity or disagreements within niche, right? I use basketball for example. If we had an app just for basketball, who was the greatest, LeBron James or Michael Jordan? That would have enough disagreeing opinion to fuel the next 30 years of engagement within that singular topic or app. But again, there isn't as much dissonance between people within the same group and shared and same exact interests. Cannabis content's done so well on Facebook for us because so many people have different opinions. Should it be legal? Should it not? Should they free people? Is racism a part of it? There's all these different topics where people have differing viewpoints, and anytime someone disagrees or argues on post, that helps fuel the engagement. We see this whistleblower at Facebook talking about what they let slide during the last political cycle and social movement. That dissonance helped leverage the all-time users and engagement to all-time levels, thus spinning up the power of these social media platforms. When you silo that and say, we're going to create a social media app just for one interest of the political party, you lose all that disagreement, thus losing all of that engagement, thus losing that desire to continually check into that app to see the next hot comment or take. You really lose all of the essence when you silo it into a single interest. So I'm going to summarize this with what could make this successful is it not just being cannabis. Having one interest, while it could be successful, there are plenty apps on the phone for a singular purpose or a singular interest. It is very, very difficult to launch, and cannabis is not mainstream enough, in my opinion, to do that in terms of the communication and the education and the maturity around it. I just don't think we're there yet, let alone the financial aspects to get there. To launch an app in this day and age, I don't think Weeedmaps has the funding. Weeedmaps is going to use all of their current funding to propel their existing business model and seek profitability and scale that business. Berner obviously is looking to scale Cookies and scale his music career. Cookies could still be a much bigger brand. Starting an endeavor like a brand new social media outlet is very, very cost intensive, very, very time intensive, and is a much larger task than I think anyone is giving it credit for. So I don't see how people that have not reached the pinnacle or the tops of what their core business could be, or even really started to eclipse that, launch something else that's going to require such massive success to be any form of success. It's just not very difficult. But wait, I thought I was talking about reasons why this could be successful. There are not many, but I do think singular silos of interest could be successful with the right budget and the right rollout. That is a very, very difficult, large task, but it could potentially happen. Another thing I think this could happen because it's obviously solving a problem. There's a clear issue or problem gap in the marketplace, and the best businesses and platforms solve issues. And so there is an issue and a problem there, so there is an opportunity to solve that. I also think that Weeedmaps does have a large app with active users already. So if they were to, what I'm already anticipating is them integrating this platform alongside what they already have going on. And that might be a way to kind of growth hack some success or some traction out the gate, but it will be difficult. And then another reason that this could be successful if it's not all cannabis. But then we get into the world of a parlor or something else. If we have something of just no, all free speech, no restrictions, then what are we letting in? What other communities outside of cannabis are going to get in there? And will those communities ruin it? As we saw with Parler coming out as the free speech. A lot of people at cannabis community, you should be a fan of this, but many people saw Parler as a politically fueled app. And because of that, people either wanted something to do with it because they aligned with that party, or wanted absolutely nothing to do with it because they didn't align with that party. And the app wasn't necessarily designed for any political reasons, but it was politicized, and that was ultimately the death of it. And we looked into that to potentially use it for cannabis. It was a scary place to be, just scrolling on your timeline. And that is an example, if you do not regulate content, what kind of issues are going to arise. And then ultimately what I started this video out with and alluded a couple different times is when we launch a new platform and say there's no rules or freedom of speech, again, there is no society or way to have no rules. There's no way to rid yourself of all liability, but also have no regulation or no moderation. So then it ultimately comes down to is what is moderated, why? Is it moderated by a human? That costs a lot. Is it an algorithm? Algorithms are not perfect. See YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, a laundry list of others. I don't know. I see way too many red flags and issues that are arising around this potential social media platform than I see positives, but I am looking forward to see what's happened. And again, in no way am I trying to shit on Weeedmaps or Berner. Big fans of both the company and the entrepreneur and artist and what they've been able to accomplish. And I really can look forward to continue watching what they accomplish. And I also look forward to see what they can accomplish together. Those are just my thoughts. If you have thoughts, I would love to hear them. Put them in the comments, even if it's hate, even if you don't like me. I don't really care. Love to see your comments. More than happy to debate, more than happy to rant further or explain on any of these topics more. And then again, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit wherever it's at, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys very much, and we'll talk to you next time.